you guys about the full moon in Pisces. That was a partial lunar eclipse that happened in Virgo season, which is now. This was about 3 days ago from the time I'm making this video, but I'm basically sharing with you guys my notes on the transit. This light is so bright. My notes on the transit and just a little bit about the themes, giving you guys some writing prompts as well as self-care, and the list goes on. So if you haven't been watching these videos, I'll give you guys a little bit about me. My name is Nicole and I'm a wellness entrepreneur, human design reader, and so much more. And I do new moon and full moon transit videos as a way to cover the transit and integrate it with my knowledge of different spiritual practices and backgrounds, as well as human design and astrology. So yeah, it's going to be a very comprehensive video, but this video is really covering the overall energy for the transit, but it's also timeless. There may be synchronicities to things you're experiencing in your life as you're watching this video. So whenever you see this, just if it resonates with you and you find there's messages for you, I would love for you to share them down below so we can just all keep track of these synchronicities of life and all that we are experiencing as a collective. All right, so I'm going to start by reading today's Sora. My partner Jack got me the Sora calendar for Christmas, and this calendar covers all the days and moon phases of the year. So for today's Sora for Friday, September 20th, which is the time I'm making this video, it says, a new constellation in the summer triangle created in the 17th century, and the constellation is Vulpecula. And I love this Sora calendar. It's just so pretty. And if you guys hear clicking in the back, it's because I'm a multitasking baddie and I am preheating my stove back there. So yeah, this is the Sora calendar. I love it so, so much. And yeah, look, you can follow the moon. Very sweet gift. And yeah, I'm gonna look up Vulpecula, the constellation, and see if it relates to this full moon lunar eclipse. All right, so it says, wow, I took a picture of it on July 12th. So I actually had information that I was researching on my phone where I screenshotted it. So that's really, really crazy. July 12th at 8:23, and those numbers add up to 7. The constellation, it says, it's a faint constellation in the northern sky. Its name in Latin for little fox, although is commonly known simply as the fox. It was identified in the 17th century and is located in the middle of the summer triangle, an asterism containing of the bright stars Deneb, Vega, and Altair. Let's see. That's interesting. Some features and facts of this star. The constellation of Vulpecula is a member of the Hercules family of constellations. It's not associated with any characters from Greek or Roman mythology, and its name is Latin for the little fox. So let's see. It's small and faint. I definitely feel like that connects to how it's the little things that we can change or modify, and that's very Virgo when we're in Virgo season, but it's those little things that actually make big changes. So yeah, let's see what else. The best period of time to view it between July and September. So it might be little, and that's funny because I noticed it in July. I guess I saw it on my night sky app, but I would definitely say keep an eye out for the little things that's in your life, in your world, that you can modify, update, and change at this time to create more ease and more efficiency so that you can achieve your dreams, which is related to the Pisces full moon. And the energy of Pisces opposing Virgo is that we can use this time to really hone in on those little changes to then magnify the things that we do desire in our life and the things that we want to draw in, those fantastical things. All right, let's see. Okay, it says fact. The ecliptic is the imaginary line tracing the route that the sun, the moon, and the planets take across the sky over the year. The Vulpecula constellation is located in an area of the sky close to the Milky Way. It is not considered to be circumpolar constellation. It is not visible most of the year. So you could be doing a lot of popping up or socializing at this time of year, or you may connect with it in the energy of introversion where you feel like you are now like having your moment where you want to be out as opposed to hermit. Yeah, and I would say do more research. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I thought it was really cool, and I'll actually show you guys the constellation again so you can see what it looks like and what the little fox looks like. So cool. All right, so now let's hop into the notes that I have of the full moon in Pisces. And if you guys are interested in the stuff I do for human design, I would definitely say check out my human design Patreon, as this connects to human design, but also that the human design Patreon has the notes for these transits, as I'm kind of keeping like a public collection of my notes, because I've been doing them behind the scenes, but I'm like, I might as well just put them there, and this way you guys can see it as I'm working on it, see the previous transits away from your screens, because I know more and more people are getting away from their screens. So you can use Patreon as a way to just view the notes I'm going to be talking about, and if you want the visual aspect of it and the aesthetic version of my notes, you'll be able to see that on my Instagram through my Instagram posts that I do on the transit. So the Instagram post is also already up, so you can follow along with it. But now I'm gonna actually get into the notes. And for anyone who wants to timestamp this video, I would really, really appreciate it, because it's 7:17 to start the reading. All right, so Patreon, let's open it up. I'm still adjusting to opening it up there as opposed to my regular notes. Okay. So the full moon in Pisces, partial lunar eclipse supermoon, happened over the 17th and the 18th, depending where you are in the world. So if you want your specific time where it passes, you can definitely look into that. You can use Astro or Cafe Astrology, which are two really efficient apps for looking up information on your astrological chart. But just make sure you know how to read it. And if you don't, there are so many astrologers who can give you a lot of information on that. So for this transit, it happened at 10:34 a.m. And I really like to break down the numbers as the human design gates. So 10:34 a.m. made me think of the gate of treading, which is gate 10. It's also called Lu in the I Ching. And this gate is all about behavior and how we move through life through our bodies. Then we also have in respect to others, because it's also part of like the humanity gates. So then we also have gate 34, so 10:34 a.m. So gate 34 is the gate of power. And even for the last transit, I talked about power awakening for the new moon in Virgo. So we are definitely stepping into our power. We're seeing the little things in our lives that we can change. We're updating things that we need to update and letting go of the things that we need to let go. I realized that my inability to compartmentalize things has caused me to feel overwhelmed and not handle certain aspects of my life that needed to be handled, because I was just like allowing emotional experiences to kind of like keep my head in a circle in that way. So what I'm doing now is realizing, and I keep checking the stove because I'm about to shut it down again really quick, but I'm going to finish this thought. So what I'm doing now is really focusing on grounding in my day to day, because I really love to think about what I want to get done in 3 months from now. But sometimes we really gotta focus, and I'm a Pisces midheaven, so it's no surprise. But I really have to focus on what I want to do right now, and what can I do each day that actually gets me to that finish line quicker. But also understanding that life is a marathon and not a like sprint. So if I want to live long, I really have to be able to slow down and just really be able to take what the day gives me. So with that, I'm going to take a moment and turn this stove off. All right, I'm back. So now, with that being said, let's hop into some of the mantras I wrote for the full moon and the new moon. So the first mantra is rainbow body, and this definitely relates to the human design gate 36 that I'll be talking about, which is the gate of crisis and Christ consciousness. And this is really the reminder, the idea of rainbow body and being in our rainbow body, that the fully realized human has to experience so much of life. The experiences and the things we go through on the material plane is really what shapes us. It's really nice to want to be the person in our spirit who gets to just kind of like be here and like, I can just dream of like all the best attributes that I want to have, but it's also really great to put that in practice and show up as those attributes daily. So attributes like virtue or loyalty or honesty, like these are simple attributes that can like really impact. If we make them like our mission statement or our goal to live by, it can really impact how quickly we make decisions and also how well we move through life. This light is so bright in my eyes. All right, so then next is the next theme I had for the transit is all of the lights. And you can check out the Kanye West song, All of the Lights, because even though I didn't necessarily want to connect it to the music for this one, I thought it was important because it's what I was hearing. And like as I was writing the mantra, I kept connecting it back to the song. But all of the lights, again, when you think of a prism and how like light shines off of a prism, it reflects off the crystal all of the lights or the colors of the rainbow. And in this way, like when we suffer and we go through things, it brings out all of the different aspects of the human spirit and allows us to champion those things so that we can move forward. All right, so now let's talk about, and this is why I really love the notes, because I don't know if you guys can see it. Okay, that's not gonna work. But basically and that's why you should be a Patreon member. Thanks. But I'm just joking. No pressure, no pressure. But this is why I really like having the notes, because I get to like also record very specific details of the transits, and you never know how those very small details can affect you. So this transit is 25 degrees Pisces, and the moon is opposing 25 degrees Virgo. And the degree in particular, 25 degrees, is an Aries degree. And Aries is all about action, moving things forward, also seeing and coming to things with new eyes. So being able to do that this month is going to be very, very impactful for making major changes and shifts in your life. Then the next thing is the full moon in Pisces is conjunct Neptune, and the Sabian symbol for that is light moving through a prism, which is also why in the IG post that I have, I use a lot of prism imagery. And speaking of prisons, I'm going to quickly take a quick shift and talk about Diddy and the allegations that came out against him. And also, this is also an example of what human suffering does on a large scale. I read something today that his mom is in the hospital, and I'm sure she's probably stressed. And whether you agree that she may have known what he was doing or not, I don't know. But it shows that when someone creates a lot of harm and trauma. Not only do they harm themselves, they harm the world around them, from the people who are listening to their music. Like, I grew up with Pity, P. Diddy's music being like very, very part big and a part of like my senior year of high school, to the point that we literally had on our senior hoodies, we had Can't Stop, Won't Stop. So like, think about how like it's such a simple thing, and the song isn't necessarily related to the acts that he was committing, but think about the creations and the vibrations that are coming out of a person whose energy was involved in such deep and dark things. And even though we may say like they're separate, they're very much connected. Because when I think about that time period of my life and throughout my early 20s, and like the people who listen to his music, mostly I'm going to be referring to men that like I grew up with, was around during these time periods, had very, you know, power hungry energy. I would say coercive energy. I would say even the word trigger warning, rapey energy. And that can very much be because of the music they were consuming and the people who were creating, the energy of the people who are creating these vibrations that go out into the world. And I used to like really laugh at like, you know, some of the Christian conversation that's like Beyonce's a demon and blah 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 blah. And like, I don't agree with any of that, by the way, but I will say this: music is way more powerful than people realize, and the creation of music in the way that we have experienced it is something that like our human bodies are just coming to realize and see. Like, before, music was listened to in open spaces, and then it became something that you can listen to privately, and then it became something that can be in part of every aspect of your life. So when you think about that, and over the last hundreds of years in humanity, imagine how much the energy of the people who is creating this music is impacting the rest of us. And if we think of ourselves like cells of the universe, then this impacting changes the very future and fate of how we can be moving forward. So when you think of music in that way, really consider who you listen to and who you continue to listen to, especially as we are going into a time of information coming forward, the age of Aquarius, and people being held accountable. And again, nobody's perfect. I really do feel like we all can have more grace and forgiveness for each other, but I also feel like there's levels of when someone continues to behave in a certain pattern for over decades, there's levels of empathy that you can have for them, because there's levels of accountability and understanding that they need, and I don't think you get that understanding when you're given so much grace. I think you have to be in a way like annihilated and separated from others in order to really understand, because that's actually like what nature does, right? It destroys things that are harmful to it. So similarly, at some point, if that thing is becoming disastrous or virus-like, then it does need, you know, it needs things to handle that. I'll just put it that way. So, and I bring that up because a lot of things have been seen with new eyes and coming to light, and also in pop culture trends. I have seen on TikTok especially, so many people have been able to find correlations between Tupac's chart, Biggie's chart, and I'm talking astrological chart, and possibly human design, because it's very similar in the sense of the information that you can glean from it in terms of the transits. But yeah, seeing that these patterns, like I think Biggie died on a new moon in Pisces, and then we see that Diddy was arrested on a full moon in Pisces. And we know that new moon is about like new intentions, but we can also see the new moon or new moons in general can also be periods of rebirth or death or showing up in a new way. So I know sometimes that we have this kind of like new moon, planning, positivity, intentions, full moon, gloom, death, endings, when in reality you can have an ending in a new moon and you can have justice or something very positive happen to a negative situation in a full moon. So that's a side note, but yeah. All right, so then now let's move on to Pisces conjunct Neptune. So this is things that we're hiding behind illusions coming to the forefront. For example, Diddy went by Brother Love, but yet was doing the most horrendous and horrific things. So we see that there is the illusion of who he was is coming to the forefront. And I will always, I don't want to say I'll always tell this story. I'm going to tell this one more time and leave this here. But as a new mom, it was Thanksgiving and I had somebody come to my house. And for the human design nerds, this happened on gate 34.3, which I think is, or 34.4, which I think is ironic. You guys can check that out because the Kuan Yin I Ching line just relates so much to that. But anyway, this person was like very super Christian, very rude, very judgy. I'm a new mom. They were judging the stuff in my house, commenting to their partner at the time about things in my home because they saw like I had tarot books and things, but then they also were super Christian and I have like Devon Franklin's Hollywood Commandments book. So it's like instead of them seeing that I'm a whole person who can understand and have elements of different things. I have like the Jehovah's Witness Bible. I have, because I grew up that way, so I just have the Bible, but I also have like the Hillsong Bible and books on chakra systems. But yeah, so this person had such judgments about those things. They were commenting on the things in my house and just like how my family wasn't together and all these things during me inviting them into my home for Thanksgiving, which one, I was doing it because I was like, part of this motherhood journey is realizing that you need to be of community and support. Like you need to be a support system and community to others. That's part of like the experience of motherhood and kind of suffering in that way. It's like the sacrifice energy and understanding that adulthood does mean sometimes being a little selfless to do for the greater good. So I'm like, you know, I'm a new mom and I don't necessarily want to do too much, but I can like have a few people come over and like we could eat some food. Plus I don't have to go out, but this is a way I could socialize. So it was a really big thing. Oh yes. Oh wow, thank you. So it's a really big thing to like, sorry, that comment threw me off. This is why I need to like read things, but also stay on track. Oh yes. So, because this relates to the comment. So thank you, thank you. So yeah, it just was really important for me to want to open my heart in this way. And by doing so in a time that I wasn't really ready because I was still postpartum and also still trying to get my home together, stressed, but also I still had a very beautiful home and I still like, it wasn't perfect, but I felt like it represented me, right? Anyway, this person came in, was very rude, and then said that they worked in the music industry and they want to be just like Diddy. And this was literally after the Cassie allegations had dropped. And I was like, are you kidding me? You want to be just like Diddy? And then because you're super Christian, you're judging me because you can tell me and my partner are in wedlock because we had our child out of wedlock. You're judging me because my home is not perfectly spick and span, and I have books on like I have the Tashin tarot book. Again, I have different Bibles and things like that. So they were like making all these judgments based on that. Yet they wanted to be like Diddy, and this was a woman, and I was just like, what? So again, this goes back to the illusions needing to fall off of people's faces. And also, I want to make a quick side note, the illusions that relate to males and the patriarchy. I think that for so long, women have had to hold men up to this really, really high pedestal, because that was for our survival, literally, in this world. We had to kind of play the game. And I think now that women don't have to play the game anymore, and they realize they want, one, equal partnerships, healthy relationships, and that these things are tangible and possible. Pisces, again, coming into Virgo, grounding our fantasies, where we're like, oh, we can have healthy partnerships. We just have to hold people accountable. We just have to say, hey, things need to be 50-50, or we need to stand up for ourselves in certain ways. And we see that when these things happen, it really causes, as gate 6, I'm going to talk about, conflict to happen, because it's one, it's gate 6 relates to the battle of the sexes, but two, also conflict is going to happen anytime there's a power struggle or that dynamic happening. So again, illusions before and illusions are now learning to ground in the truth and honoring what you have to lose in the process. And like, what you have to lose in the process sometimes is losing, the rose-colored glasses we have to the things that are happening in the world for the sake of pleasure. Because I think a lot of us, like, especially when I think of like pop culture, a lot of it is pleasure seeking, but it doesn't necessarily, and pleasure actually does serve the whole, because joy and pleasure, but there's levels to it that it now becomes pervasive, and it's no longer serving the whole or even the person who's experiencing it. And I think this is a perfect example of that we really have to, during this Pisces Virgo transit, and of course in general, focus on ourselves to the point of being able to come to others in a very healthy way. Because imagine had Diddy used his energy for good. If he's a mogul, if he's this powerful man, imagine if he used it for good, and just good. And I feel like sometimes we feel like there has to, whenever we see someone who does extremely well, like a billionaire, they also do extremely bad, like in terms of some type of characteristic or trait. But I feel like we need to start in our Pisces bag the illusion of changing our beliefs to believing these things are possible, that we can see celebrities operating in good. We can see people who are, spiritual and non-judgmental. We could see people being in better fractals, so that we can kind of like actually create that paradise of having the world that we want, but it's within our field, right? And I think those things are possible. I think it's taking time, but I think what we're seeing right now is the breakdown of the structure to create that time. And the reason why I brought up, and I'm going to circle back to this really quickly, the reason I brought up the Thanksgiving thing, situation I went through, is because I felt like it spoke on two things. It spoke on how we do uplift people in society who don't have good characters, or like she said, she worked in the music industry. We give people who don't have great characters good opportunities and put them in places where they actually make impact and affect other people. But also I wanted to talk about the impact of misogyny and how we always, and I'm saying always in terms of the collective we always collectively as a society, I feel like, tend to put up men and tear down women. And this is women tearing down women and men tearing down women. And until we have some more harmony within that relationship and that balance, women are going to suffer. And the beauty of women is that we become very resilient because of that. But I feel like, imagine when we can thrive and not have to be resilient. Imagine where mothers don't have to be struggling to have community, because not only are they dealing with the men in their life not understanding them, but they have the women in their life judging them. And of course, I'm using very general terms here, so please do not drag me. Please just listen and understand where I'm coming from. But yeah, that just gotta change, period. All right, so this is going to be a long video, and I'm just going to allow that. So the next thing is it's forming a grand trine, the Earth, Sun, Uranus, and Pluto. So there's going to be sudden changes and transformation and spiritual changes through belief. So the beautiful thing is, with all of these allegations and things coming out, collectively people are seeing that we have to have things change on a grander scale, and we no longer want to live in a society where things can go on for so long and people aren't held accountable. Because again, we're seeing that the longer things go on and people aren't held accountable, it affects a larger and larger group of humanity. And yeah, we don't need a virus spreading. We need healing, and we need regeneration of the planet and of us as a people. So equinoxes are about balance and harmony between light and dark, and we also have the eclipse that happened, the partial lunar eclipse here. So this is all about balancing these energies and alignment. I think if I'm correct, when eclipses happen, it's because the sun, moon, and earth are all in align. So yeah, focusing on that alignment of all the aspects of us. All right, my partner says my child wants to come back, so I'm going to say enter quietly and wrap this video up. Because again, the notes are on Patreon, and this is just my musings and depth, so it doesn't have to be exactly the same. But yeah, I really feel like this is a very impactful transit. Like, this is a fated transit because it's all about spiritual downloads coming into us, but it's impactful because we're getting such deep insights that if we allow it to seep into ourselves and ring true, it can really hold us. So even for me, with that situation that happened, I have grace and understanding that this person may come into a new wisdom and new eyes as they get to become a mother, and they get to go through certain experiences, and they get to humble themselves. But I also hope that with these allegations that came out, they get to see that the illusions that they were upholding aren't actually real either. And for me, the wisdom and lesson I learned from that is to honor myself more and actually be a little less self-sacrificial. Because anytime we, as cells, allow other cells into our space, these people and cells can impact you. And when they impact you, it really can cause harm. Like, that situation really triggered me, and it kind of closed my heart up at the time to even wanting people in my space at a time that it might have been really nice to have more people in my space, because I was still coming into my motherhood with my daughter, but I also was still like excited to start sharing more of her with family and friends, in the sense of like people getting to really meet her, because I've been so like mindful and kind of overprotective and like a little anxious and worried, as a mom. So with all of those things, it just like, I kind of was like, okay, this is why I'ma just kind of focus in and hone in. And I needed that too. So again, I bring that situation up because I know that it can help someone. Also, there was so many nuggets in there of things that happened. But another irony is too many fires happened during that Thanksgiving while this person was there, and she actually poured her wine onto it and put out the second fire. Yeah, basically at the other apartment we were in, the marshmallows came up really, really high, because their oven is set up different than the space I'm in now. And that oven, because it had a shorter rack, which was like really, really close to the light, the marshmallows from the candied yams caught on it, and it caused a mini fire in the oven on Thanksgiving. So yeah, and that triggered me too, because I'm like, I'm trying to do my best, and now this person's judging me because they had to put out a fire because they just reacted fast. So they were judging our whole family for just all these different little stupid things that was like literally everyone's learning curve, and like it could have just been a more gracious experience. And for me to have that energy in my home, I was just so pissed. I was like, never again. But yes, leaving that there. Now let's talk. But that's also talking about the extremes of humanity and life. So if you've seen the numerology 15, 15 actually connects to human design gate 15, which is all about the extremes of life and learning temperance and balance. And I had to learn through that experience a little more of what it is when you're suffering as a human and just going through what being human is, a crappy experience, and getting over it. All right, I think they're trying to enter, so I'm going to be quiet for a second. Hi. So mommy's still filming, all right? So if you can eat a snack, that would be amazing. Okay, so do you want to say hello?
Oh.
Hi. Or do you want to... Did you have fun?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Do you want to... Oh, do you want to go with Daddy? Thank you. A win is a win is a win is a win is a win. A win is a win is a win is a win is a win. That is very rare. So I'm happy about that. All right, so now let's talk about the themes of the partial lunar eclipse. So the themes for this lunar eclipse were introspection, triangles, so triangle formations or seeing the number 333, imagination and play, epiphany, disclosure, self-reliance, agility, which Indy has, she be running around fast, precision, finality, liberation, and structure. So as I've mentioned, we're seeing structures change in our world environment. We're seeing freedom for people who have been holding back secrets or dealing with things behind the scenes that are now coming to light. We're also seeing imagination, and we're like figuring out like the world that we want to see and what we want in our world. I feel like especially with new and more content creators coming to the forefront, we are literally able to create our reality in such a beautiful and magical way. So I think that now at this time, limiting and like really curating your social media is good. Okay, so now let's move to the lunar eclipse reading. So this is what I wrote on my Instagram post. Going clear, this full moon is a super moon in Pisces and a partial lunar eclipse. The Pisces full moon is not a change we can create, but one that will be invoked through the transits. The energy is of wonder, curiosity, overwhelm, and anticipation for what messages we will individually receive over the next 5 to 7 days. And I'm posting this on the 20th of September, so you have an additional 5 to 7 days. So the new moon was on the 17th for many of us, so you can count it from then, so maybe till the 17th to the 22nd. All right, so this may be a universal upheaval as we are collectively breaking up from what isn't in alignment with our highest good. Some awakenings will be of peace, showing us we already know what we need and we are taking the right steps forward. With everything feeling so dreamy yet heavy and combative, this energy with rest, intentional action, and hope for better days. So I kind of wrote that a little wrong, but I was basically trying to say you can combat the energy of things feeling like up in the air and dreamy with intentional action, rest, and just being grateful and hopeful for better times and better days. Because when we do that, it absolutely helps our spirit and just keeps us in a space of moving forward. Because if you're optimistic, you're more likely to take the actions to move forward, as opposed to if you are down in the dumps, you're less likely to see, even be able to visualize how you can move out of it. All right, so before I go into the human design gates, I'm going to take a quick moment and talk about some writing prompts and some self-care, just because I feel like I've talked a lot at the beginning. There were some trigger warnings, and we can all take a moment and just vibe and think together. So self-care, study triangle patterns in nature, triangle patterns, mind, body, spirit, 333, Christ consciousness, really studying and understanding more of this energy, even the 369 method, understanding the method of manifestation through the numbers 3, 6, and 9 can really be helpful at this time. Also, working with salt or sea moss. I recently collaborated with another channel, Arish. She is amazing and she is a slow living creator in Canada. And we collaborated. I sent her some sea moss from my apothecary and she made some, and also did a channeling where she connected to the sea moss and like saw how sea moss helps your body. And one thing I loved is she said that sea moss is like filling potholes, and when she feels like she ingests it, she feels like that's what it's doing. So if you're someone who really loves spiritual content, mindful and intentional content, and also Aquarian content, I would highly recommend checking out that video, and I'm going to make sure to link it here so you can see it. But yeah, it's just a really great way to take care of yourself by taking sea moss, or even just like kind of having that like buddy of watching someone work with something so intentional and do something that takes care of their body. It's kind of like, I think you can use YouTube creators almost as accountability partners, especially when you're taking in positive content like that. You're more likely to do something like that in your day-to-day life. All right, so the next thing is, and that's an example of how cells can help cells in a positive way. And it starts in your body and then it comes out as you being able to be that positive cell for another person. All right, so then the next thing is working with fire and water elements. In the new moon in Virgo video, I talk about the alchemy of fire and water. And also how it is used to craft like diamonds and like just beautiful gemstones and things like that, how we can like get the best from working with these elements. So you can continue to work with fire and water elements during this time, and that could be like steaming, that could be the sauna, that could be candles, it could be just the way you work with lights in your house. All of those things can impact your mood and just change your day-to-day life. All right, so next is try a new daily routine. Virgo rules the sixth house, with it all about routines, scheduling, how we spend our day-to-day lives. So, and weather patterns and things like that. So really make a routine based on your environment. For me, I'm realizing like this weather in LA has had me so dry. So for me, part of my daily routine is adding more moisture and hydration into my life, and adding just more elements of water, so that in my daily routine, so that I feel more hydrated. So whether it's drinking water or taking some more steamy showers or just rinsing my face more throughout the day, I feel like it helps a lot. Or just even wetting my hair and letting it air dry. Sometimes I really love like just cleansing my hair in that way. So now that we've covered the self-care, let's talk about some writing prompts. So, am I thinking too deeply? Consider that. For me, as you guys can tell, I think very deeply, but you can also think deeply in a way that's really beneficial to you, in terms of thinking deeply on the things that matters. Like particular aspects of your routine can be beneficial, but thinking deeply on things that don't necessarily matter can do the opposite and really be detrimental or harmful to your day-to-day life or routine. So next is, what paradigm shifts can I make? And paradigm shifts could be belief systems, and sometimes the belief systems are based on our traumas and the things that we've experienced. So paradigms are basically like how we center our world and experience. So like me as a mother, I had to make a paradigm shift because being a mother is a very big part of my life, and I could no longer act like it wasn't. So like, for example, I know there's a conversation of should parents put their kids on social media, but then you're living your life and like enjoying your experience with your child, and your child is also living in a world where there's social media. So not saying that like they shouldn't be on it or should be on it. Again, you guys can chat about that in the comments. All I'm saying is that like, art is a reflection of life. So to want to see art and the beauty of life, but then want to completely act like certain aspects of life don't exist, like being a child or being a parent, it doesn't make sense, right? So that's just my personal take on it. But the reason why I bring it up is because you have to honor where you are in order to really maximize your life. And that goes back to Human Design Gate 15, because it talks about the extremes of humanity. And sometimes being able to honor the role that you play in life is the way that you can best honor moving through the extremes of life. All right, so then next is, how can I prepare for new opportunities? And preparation for new opportunities, I think there's a quote that says, like, it's something about luck meeting preparation. No. Luck is preparation and meeting faith, or something like that. Someone could put it down below, but basically it's trying to say that when you have opportunities that seem lucky, there was usually some level of preparation you did, whether you realize it or not, that created that opportunity. So that is something you can think about this month, is what can I do on a day-to-day basis that puts me in a space to receive positive opportunities in alignment with what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. So for example, if you're an actor, maybe the way that you would think about the luck that you want to experience. For example, you might be like, oh my God, I want to meet Oprah, right? If you're an actor, how are you likely to meet Oprah, or even someone else, right? Or is someone in the industry that you may want to connect with, if you have not put yourself out for castings, updated your headshots, emailed people, followed people that are interested in the things that you're interested, and then being specific about that. Like, you may be like, I really love characters like Olivia Pope, so then you study Kerry Washington. Or it might be, I really want to do commercial acting, so then you follow commercial castings. So yeah, being specific and honoring your fantasies, honoring the dreams that you might have, can really bring those dreams into reality through luck and opportunity. So next is, in what ways can I surrender to life more? For me, surrendering to life was being able to say, hey, I have an iPhone 15, I have a tripod, I have some plants, and I have a cute pillow, an area of my house I can sit in and make these videos and cover the transits. And that is how I can connect to the most people and reach a really wide audience. So I did that. That was me surrendering, because I could have easily said, like, I really want to have a DSLR and a certain setup, and I do have a DSLR, but I realized as a mom and the space I'm in, if I want to show up consistently, I have to do it in a way that's easy and efficient, and work in harmony with who I truly am in this moment in time. So doing things like working with what you have and just trusting the process is really a way that you can surrender and trust the process of life. And it's not easy, because it looks like just showing up like this and hoping for the best and never knowing what can happen, right? All right, so next is the human design gates. And after the gates, I'm going to cover some Easter eggs, and then we're ending the video here. Okay, so human design gate 6, conflict. Conflict is first seen in our nervous system. Gate 6 is the gate of conflict and responsible for the battle of the sexes, war, and violence. In the I Ching, this hexagram is called hung, and conflict really hangs the experience of both parties involved. Conflict relates to the emotional center, as it helps eliminate more and more dis-ease in our lives. Through healthy conflict resolution, we can come to find peace and diplomacy. Conflict is felt in the aura between two people, and it's the energy of what is unspoken and also unsaid. The amino acid connected to the 6th hexagram is glycine, and glycine can be taken as a supplement and helps build and protect your heart, your liver, and helps adjust your sleep cycles. I have taken glycine. I actually worked with this hexagram in particular in terms of the amino acid. I read this hexagram and I knew that I dealt with nervous energy. So in the gene keys, that is the shadow state of gate 6, the gate of conflict. And I knew that if I don't want to be in conflict with others and deal with those experiences, as I talked about Thanksgiving, I needed to be in a space where I felt vibrationally together, because again, my nervous system was shook, and then that day shook it up even more, but also that helped release, because I do think we release things in waves, and that's why we go through experiences in life. But I worked with glycine as a way to help reset my nervous system, and also as a breastfeeding mom, it does impact your liver, because it is helping your body like get rid of waste and things faster, right? Because you're producing milk. So with that, I was like, I want to take something that's going to support all of these things that my body's going through, and I started taking glycine. And I definitely feel like it helped me become more peaceable, in the sense that like I'm able to reflect more and think about things. I also don't react as frequently as I feel like I was. I'm not as hyper vigilant as I was either. I'm able to just trust in life a little more. And I think like postpartum, that's really, really important, because you have to be able to trust in life to keep yourself safe, and to be able to take care of another child and trust that they are safe. Because even if they are safe, if you don't feel that way, you will be nervous, you will be anxious, and then that vibrationally continues to attract that energy. So working with glycine has been really great. If you are someone who's really into human design and the human design experiment, and you happen to work with glycine and see this video, I would love for you to share down below what that experience was like. All right, so yeah, I feel like I covered gate 6 pretty good. So now let's talk about human design, gate 36. So gate 36 relates deeply to the material plane and world. In the I Ching, this gate is known as the darkening of the light, and it's also called in the gene keys as the dark night of the soul gate. So the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching relate to the life cycle and how it plays out in our calendar year. The 36th gate is a reminder that life fluctuates, and with every high, there comes a low. Part of life as a human is to experience suffering, and gate 36 is a reminder that suffering is part of life and of the human spirit moving forward towards the will of the divine and the fullness of the human experience. And please, this video is timeless. I know I'm saying a mouthful, but you can anytime come back to any of these videos and watch it if you need to grasp anything or hear anything again. Thus, gate 36 at the highest frequency is understood by man as Christ consciousness, again, because it reminds us that suffering is part of life and part of the human experience moving forward. So it's also the ability to connect heaven and earth through living a life in perfect harmony with who you were created to be. And who you were created to be is the human that you're here to be, the person that goes through the experiences you go through, that suffers the way you suffer. And it's all about being able to persevere and champion the sufferings that we experience that really show us who we are. So here's a reminder that gate 36 is also related to the 64 hexagrams, in the sense that it's a connection to the transits show wherein we have periods of crisis or discord in the planet. So being able to understand the astrology and the transits of life really helps with being able to understand the collective, or understanding what we are fully experiencing as humans, as one big cell, right? So part of life is predetermined by the I Ching, which is the timetable of the universe. And then quickly, an Easter egg, but also related to this, think of this number 64 as the number 64 relates to the number of the universe. It also relates to the 64 hexagrams. And these are all going back to the themes I wrote, all about structure. When we're able to understand the structure of the universe, we're really able to play and like bring our imagination to the material world, which is why we see so many people who are billionaires and stuff. They're not highly religious people sometimes. They're people who just understand the mechanics of the Maya, or the world as we know it. So numerology, which is also why we need more spiritual people stepping out of religious frameworks and wanting to understand the world as it is, because by doing so, that's how you really can shape it from the inside out, as opposed to, oh, I have the structure and I just believe this is it, and because of that, you're actually very divisive and you can't impact somebody because you're too busy like be decaying as a cell yourself, when in fact you can do the opposite and basically start changing things by diving into it. As Gate 36 is basically describing, Jesus kind of dove into the heart of the human experience. He was a carpenter, he was a preacher, he helped people, he washed feet, he did very mundane human things, but then also healed people and did very spiritual, miraculous things. He went into the forest and like, you know, dealt with the devil. So all of these things happened. He went through a dark night of the soul, and it shows that humans choosing to not be like Jesus, but be like a Christ, be themselves, but have this similar energy is actually gonna be what changes the world. Honoring who you are in this moment and not necessarily saying, I want to be like Jesus, because Jesus came to be Jesus. You came to be you. So next is the numerology of 10, because 64 adds up to 10, and 10 is the binary 01. 10 is also 1-0. So the reason I'm going to talk about quickly this is really understanding the dynamic of the masculine and feminine. And if you think of the 1 being the masculine and the 0 being the feminine, we see that it's interesting that 10 is like completion and it's the masculine coming before the feminine, but it really starts from the feminine coming before the masculine. 0, 1, my hands, from the 01, the original binary. So that also relates to human design, gate 1 and gate 2, and the interesting understanding of how the I Ching hexagrams came to be with the 1 and the 0. I think that's for someone who's going to dive deep. I would definitely check out Richard Rudd, The Gene Keys, and read hexagrams 1 and 2. And actually read 2 before 1, because it's really going to talk about that similar binary in relation to the yin and the yang, or the masculine and feminine pole energy. Just very fascinating. And I think it's understanding basically that both are equally important, and it's about both serving each other for the greater experience of the world. All right, so next is Easter eggs. And I'm just gonna quickly wrap it up here. And here are some Easter eggs for this new moon. Rather full moon. But the reason why I said new moon is because it does relate back to that last video very much. So here's some Easter eggs. Anchors and sails and their related meanings to earth and spirit. Just because anchors and sails do have kind of like a shape of a triangle, and also the 3 points or 4 points, depending on how you count it. So yes, I would say definitely check that out and how it relates to grounding and connecting heavenly or spiritual ideas to earthly ideas. The next is, I found this really interesting quote on money in relation to survival mode and the ability to maintain finances. And I think this very much connects to Pisces and Virgo, and the Pisces full moon being in Virgo season, because it's about grounding into reality. And also it connects to gate 6. It connects to everything I've been talking about. This is from the Amber Renee, and I think this is from Threads. It says, yes, it's our responsibility, and money is a heavy topic for many women. It's highly emotional, and our experience of money is driven by our nervous system, which is why it's so important to be able to have a regulated nervous system. Most women I work with had mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers who didn't have a positive relationship with money, and those behaviors, thoughts, feelings, nervous system responses were passed down to them. It's not just sensible or logical, it's primal, and we need to address it in the body for real change. So with it being primal, you can be doing all the manifestation work, but if you don't reset your DNA in a physical way when it relates to money, it would not change that code. right? So that's why I really love this quote. Again, this is on my Patreon. If you want to see it for yourself or have it in your notes, feel free to subscribe to the Patreon. Hi. And yeah, I think that is a really beautiful quote because it just shows how much we're connected through our genes and how when we do work to make changes, it changes our DNA for generations to come. Next is a video about Sumerian goddess Inanna, Anunnaki, and plasma. And I saw this video on TikTok. And the reason why I'm sharing that video with you, because this is all about the energy of the triple goddess, which does relate back to the sun, earth, moon, or mind, body, spirit. And also this is a triple energy, the goddess and Anunnaki and plasma. And that video is just talking about how, you know, the physical structure of our bones is one way that we are connected or grounded or here in this presence, but also how much blood relates to our groundedness and our presence. And one, being a mom who was postpartum and lost a lot of blood through birth, blood is so much related to your ability to make money and also physical energy. Because if you don't have the physical energy to create the action or move the currency of, you know, the other circuitry of your body, then you cannot bring income in. And this is also why it does relate to another conversation of, yes, I do believe women should be married before having children for this very reason, because you never know what type of birth experience you have. And if you are partnered someone, you both need to be able to be committed and be present for this new life to come in, but also that partner is to cover the spouse that is healing from that experience. So, and the reason why that relates to money is because when a person is physically not able to make money, they are physically not able to survive in a world that requires money and also have shelter, safety, etc. And all of those things are really, really important. So when we're able to move through conflict, which conflict is always about not being on the same page, when we're able to find a page that we can be on, we're able to create like a gelling, a coagulation, a harmony, becoming blood, right? And now creating that heaven on earth experience, right? Being able to build the structure and have the finances. So that's probably a whole nother video about like family relationships and harmony and the relation of all those things. But I think the beauty of that is, yes, there's a reason why there's family ties, blood ties. There's a reason of how all of these things connect, from our genetic codons to the spirituality aspect of it, to heaven on earth, to the idea of Christ and his bridegroom. Like it all intertwines. And being able to see this synthesis, I feel like can really help us change that DNA that shows us otherwise, or it makes us feel like we're not in unity with what the world is, if that makes sense. Feel like I'm rambling, but it makes sense. All right, so with all that being said, I feel like I should just end the video around here, but I'm going to end it on this note, that it's just so important to be able to honor what life gives you and make, as Beyonce says, lemons out of lemonade. So if whatever experience you're in, if you're able to see the spiritual truth within it and move forward within it because you see the spiritual truth, it can really help change your life. And as we know with, if you're a human design buff, you may know of the idea of grace. And when we're able to honor the spiritual truth, oh, yay. Okay, thank you. When you're able to honor the spiritual truths of life, then you can move forward winning the game of life in a way that isn't just in a very Machiavellian, and I'll bring this term up, dark triad way, because I just been watching some videos on it and I was like, wow, I'm fascinated. I had no idea I knew these types of people existed, but I didn't know like this was really a thing to be aware of. But yeah, there's people who are just literally looking at life as a game, and that's why they're able to really do heinous things. And then there's people who see that life is a spiritual process of learning and growing. But guess what? If you're able to take this and then bring this and then bring this together, then that's when we really start like creating high vibrational lives and people. So that's the point of this video. I actually wanted to do another oracle video soon. I have it here. I was gonna do it tonight, but I think I'm just gonna rest because this video is pretty dense and it's 64 minutes long. So I'm just gonna end it here because I feel like that's a lot of symmetry, circuitry, alignment. Bye guys, see you in the next video.